So there you have a brief look at the Latcham Robinson Grandstand as we say good evening and welcome to tonight's first semi-final of the Tooth Cup between Western Suburbs and Parramatta. I'm Ray Warren, and during the telecast I'll be joined by Michael Cleary, a 3 times international for Australia in various sports, and he'll also be accompanying our regular analyst Keith Barnes on the panel tonight. A warm welcome to both co-commentators as we briefly analyse the track records of both Parramatta and Western Suburbs in Cup football. Parramatta, they were Cup finalists here in '75 against the champion side in night football Eastern Suburbs, and then again they made the semi-finals in 1976. The Magpies, they've been to the semi-finals in Cup football only once, but they made a very good fist of it and went on to win the Cup final in that year, 1977. And so in their only premiership to date, Parramatta and Western Suburbs met at Lidcombe Oval, and Western Suburbs took the honours 21-17 in a match that ended in controversy with, you might recall, Western Suburbs infringing the 10 metres and 5 metres and basically embarrassing or frustrating Parramatta from scoring any more points. And then in the second qualifying round of the Tooth Cup, they were head-on again out here, and Parramatta won the match by a more convincing margin, 18 points to 11, but again that match was tinged with controversy. It seems that any time the next-door neighbours meet from the Magpie and Eel country, their matches are certainly a match that you're worth paying a lot of money to go a long way to see. And that's exactly what a crowd has done here tonight at Tooth Cup first semi-final. A very big crowd in attendance to see Western Suburbs play Parramatta. Let's have a look at the two sides. Firstly, the Parramatta team, and though several players have had to withdraw, we see the Australian fullback from the New Zealand tour just recently, Gary Dowling, back in first grade. And what replacements they have. Parramatta with the likes of Arthur Beetson and Bob O'Reilly coming back to the first grade pack, and Lou Platt is back to lock forward with young Bruce Grimaldi, a 21-year-old policeman, playing in the front row in his very first grade game. The Western Suburbs side, coached by that, well, freak of a coach, Roy Masters, has again been unlucky when it comes to suspension and injury. And interesting players in that lineup tonight include Ted Goodwin back from suspension, and he certainly is going to strengthen the centres. Alan Neil was out, and then when Terry Lamb pulled out, Alan Neil has gone back in, again with a nagging groin injury, which I'm told he's carried since midway through the first round of the premiership. The lock is Jim Lease, the hooker is Alan Latham, and the stage is set for referee John Gosher to blow time on after these commercials to the first semi-final of 1980. Referee John Gosher waiting to give the signal for Parramatta to kick off, running right to left, and there it is, the start of the first semi-final of the Tooth Cup, and the kick-off taken by Michael Cronin, and a slip there for Warren Boland, and Buckley had to come in very quickly to recover the situation for the Magpies. This is the centre three-quarter Broderick, also back in the top team tonight for the Magpies. O'Reilly the tackler, brought a roar from the crowd, and as our opening picture showed you, the Latcham Robinson stand is packed to capacity tonight as Buckley kicks to clear for Western Suburbs. Not all that big, the kick. Not very much breeze, though, to speak of, and there he is, Gary Dowling, coming in for a tackle from Cooper and Latham. And already we find quite a fiery encounter between Parramatta and Western Suburbs. Peter Sterling wasn't happy with the treatment that his teammates got, Gary Dowling. And the touch judge in to make a report.
Well, I think the same thing could be said as far as a couple of the Parramatta forwards were concerned. Bob O'Reilly and Ron Hilditch in particular went in very heavily, and that's to be expected anyhow in the opening minutes of what is certain to be a very fiery opening clash and a very fiery first semi-final. There's a lot at stake for these two teams. Certainly they'll be battling not only for the prize money, but also from the prestige point of view.
After Saturday's win against St George, Keith Barnes, do you think anyone's entitled to suggest that Wests are not the team that should be leading the 1980 premiership race?
No, certainly not. They've performed outstandingly right throughout the season, and consistency has been the keynote as far as Western Suburbs are concerned. Roy Masters has been able to get a maximum effort out of the players week after week, and it certainly surprised a lot of people, I feel. Their performance last week against St George. whether they're able to provide or produce that little bit extra, I feel, that's needed in the big stuff coming up in the semi-finals, finals and grand final, well, that remains to be seen. But certainly they're worthy competition leaders at this stage.
Lou Platts away from one tackle, but now an enthusiastic Western Suburbs defence halts him midway between the 22 and the halfway west end of the paddock. It's gone across to O'Reilly, and the big man who was in that first tackle on Broderick meets quite a heavy Western Suburbs reception. Sterling switching the point of the attack back to Platts, and the tackler for Western Suburbs was John Crow. Now it's Sterling, beats him, and the big man will look for Patterson, who did come through on his right, but the tackle was effective from Bob Cooper. Goodwin is the marker for Beatson as he gets up slowly to play it. It's Sterling now. A chip there for Patterson. The bounce of the ball, and Patterson's got the pass away right under the chest there of Sharp it was, and a possible 5-pointer gone begging.
It certainly was, and I think that's going to be indicative of Parramatta's tactics too, because this Western Suburbs defence, they move up very quickly and they move up continually, and they'll keep doing it for the full 80 minutes, and it was good to see that little chip over the top by Sterling. Unfortunately, the final pass went astray.
The scrum is just inside the Western Suburbs 22 line, and we'll see what happens. It's a penalty to Parramatta. It's against West. The indication is you've screwed the scrum defending pack, and it's a pretty easy kick for Michael Cronin, about 18 metres out, just off centre, and we should see the first points of the first semi-final going to Parramatta after Cronin takes this penalty. Well, Western Suburbs and St George, the match last Saturday was billed as probably a grand final preview. Michael Cleary, do you share that rather popular opinion now?
Well, I think it's a morale booster for Western Suburbs, but there's a big difference between grand final football and club football. It was an outstanding game, and I think a credit to the rugby league, but I don't think I'd like to say that the assured Western Suburbs of winning the competition if it's Western St George in the grand final, but I think it was a good morale booster for them.
So Cronin successful, and there's the first points, and the blue and gold flags are waving with jubilation as we take a shot of the stands, which, as I said, is fairly fully housed.
Parramatta picked that chip situation up pretty quickly there, Keith, because Western Suburbs have not, their back line wasn't coming up in a straight line. There was a gap there between the centres, one up, one was back, and I think they noticed it very quickly and got the chip in, which nearly eventuated in a try.
So Lord Ted to restart for Western Suburbs, and it's down to Gary Darling, who on Sunday, I believe, was reserved for reserves after probably being the player of the series against New Zealand only last month or in the month of June. And a good run by Darling just outside his own quarterway line. Sterling now to clear, and it's not a good kick. It came off the inside edge of the boot. This is Buckley for Western Suburbs, but it's a penalty to Parramatta. I took my eyes off the kicker. I take it he was felled late. Can you offer a comment, Mike?
No, I didn't see it myself, Ray. My eyes went straight back to Wayne Buckley, and I didn't notice what happened.
No, he's certainly taken late, and he was taken late in that first little chip over the top too.
Maybe one of our head-on cameras picked it up as we see Cronin taking the kick for line. And he's good. Yeah, it's been a big kick by Cronin. Far too dangerous to go to a replay of the situation now, because Parramatta are only 10 metres out from the Western Suburbs line, leading 2-0. Well, Hilditch did not take the free place kick on the mark, so it appeared. He took it back about 4 metres to take the free place kick, and Gosha has put down a scrum. So Beatson, Platts, '11 is Grimaldi, who in Eyewitness News I thought was very, very honest. I asked him how nervous he was, and he said something very, thank you. Sterling, the chip. It's not so much the chip as the bomb. Patterson is through there, flying high as Brett Kenny. It's West Ball with their captain bowling.
Buckley was up for that, you know, and they nearly pulled him out of the way, the Western Suburbs, his own teammates. He could have been disastrous there for West.
So West getting a penalty, about 11 metres out from their own line. next week. The second semi-final of the Tooth Cup sees the clash between Eastern Suburbs, Cup champions in 75 and 78, against Balmain, Cup champions in 76. In fact, a win by West tonight and a win by East next week would give us a 1977 Cup final replay as Ginger Meggs takes it just into Parramatta territory, and a penalty goes to Parramatta.
I think the decision was right there, Ray, too.
Well, Michael, I was just going to refer back to a tackle on a West player. Some Western Suburbs supporters felt that it was high, but it certainly only made contact with the shoulder. And they may feel as though they've been badly done by, as Cronin finds touch just outside the quarter-way line. Hilditch taking the free place kick on the mark this time. And now it's Chapman, former St George winger. Beatson looking to the blind, Sterling to the open. A pop of the pass to Steve Sharp now. Youngster with lots of potential. Sterling, Patterson, and that's Lou Platts, who's really being used in attack very openly in the opening 8 minutes. Sterling, O'Reilly, round behind Beatson and picked up by Boland for Western Suburbs. Complete misunderstanding.
Oops, there's a love match on.
Yes, there is a love match on between Crow and O'Reilly, and they're exchanging punches. And so the second altercation in this Tooth Cup has been separated at the 9th minute.
It looked like settling itself down, but there was a little butt went in and they started it all up again.
Elbow, wasn't it?
Elbow, yes.
There's plenty of fire there, though, and Parramatta tactics good. They work in the big man, namely O'Reilly, Beatson and Platts off Sterling, both on the inside and the outside.
O'Reilly with a look of disbelief on his face. I think somebody said something against him. In fact, Bob is in his last year in Sydney League. He's apparently keen to go to the country or to Queensland to coach.
He might want to be Sellerman to Arthur Beetson when he gets up there. We all seem to be going north.
Archie's just behind that shot, listening quite closely to what they're saying to the big bear. Very close mates. Ron Hilditch, the Parramatta captain, in camera. Warren Boland and John Crow. And West get the penalty. Well, there has been some action in the opening minutes.
What's the old style, the first, 20 minutes softening up period, and I don't think it's harmful to the game. I think it's expected by the players, and I don't know how it's received by the spectators, but as an old player, it's taken in good spirit.
Well, that was a touch of the light fantastic by Peter Walsh. I was going to say a touch of Neville Glover in Peter Walsh. You might recall Glover scoring a try like Walsh carried that ball then as he ran off Tom Arbour's pass. Cooper now on the halfway, tackled by O'Reilly. Arbour. I thought he had a quietish game on Saturday, Arbour.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see how he fares tonight against this Parramatta pack.
Oh, gee! Alan Neil was met by Goliath in Arthur Beetson, and did he feel it? Sorry, Keith, but that shook the rafters.
There's plenty of heavy work going in out there, particularly with Ron Hilditch. He's setting a great example for the Parramatta forwards.
Alan Neil. Darling tippy-toed inside touch. And Boland and Buckley with Neil make the tackle.
I suppose the question mark one must ask is whether the Parramatta forwards, namely Beatson and O'Reilly, etc., can keep up the pace, because it has opened very, very fast, hasn't it?
It is 20-minute football, Keith.
Yes, but we know that Western Suburbs will go for the 420 minutes.
I can only offer the suggestion that a lot of people believe that this type of football was made for Bob O'Reilly and Arthur Beetson. Sterling's kick has been charged down and booted ahead by Jimmy Lease. Is he going to make it? No, Gary Dowling arriving first, but it's gone over the dead ball line anyway. Well, Lease scored a similar try, well, not quite the same, but something similar on Saturday off a loose pass from Craig Young. So the 22 place restart by Hilditch. Beetson. He slid the pass. Sterling's got it back for Parramatta.
Actually, the pass wasn't on then. I didn't think he was under a lot of pressure, and even the ball runner coming onto the ball, young Kenny, didn't have much opportunity, I didn't think, Mike.
Yeah, well, they're taking him one up, one down with Arthur Beetson, and it's a bit hard then for him to get rid of it. I think he thought he could get round, but it happened to hit one of the West players in the midsection.
Well, that was blatant, that. There was just no way in the world Peter Sterling could get away with that feed. And it's a chance for West to level up at 2-all.
They're bustling Parramatta at the moment, West, aren't they?
Yes, and they'll do it for the 80 minutes. You know, they're only a young side, a vigorous side, and a very enthusiastic side. This is a very important department now, the goal kicking. It's been handled so competently by Ron Gitto. It'll be interesting to see whether Peter Walsh can continue in the same vein.
Funny story on Peter Walsh. In the last Tooth Cup match West played, they had a late withdrawal. In fact, several. A virus went through the club and several players had to withdraw, and Peter Walsh wasn't in the 17. And his coach, Roy Masters, found him at the local waterhole at about 4 o'clock and said, "Pete, you're going to have to play." He said, "I can't. I've had 5 schooners." He said, "You get yourself there." And he played that night and played well. I said to him, "What have you done tonight?" He said, "Oh, I just brushed up with an even 12. Joking, of course. But he's a talented player, Peter Walsh.
I was just watching John Crowe and Bob O'Reilly just after that scrum broke up. They continued to dance cheek to cheek for a while there, and must be a little... Oh, another few points.
Western Suburbs levelling up at 2 points all. Peter Walsh, your goal kicker, on screen at the moment.
Yes, so that'll do wonders for his confidence now, landing that first one, and also I should imagine it'll give a lift to the rest of the team, because they must have been a little bit apprehensive of whether he would be able to take over that vital role that Gitto so capably handled.
Boland. Very capable wing three-quarter Boland. Crowe, here's beat O'Reilly, and gee, it was a hard tackle, legitimate stuff. And now Alan Latham, swinging arm in the tackle from O'Reilly. Buckley for the kick. Cooper's got down there even before the ball was kicked, and Dowling across, and a fine touch, yes, a great kick. Oh, what a kick. It found something like 70 metres.
He's been a good acquisition to Western Suburbs, young Wayne Buckler. I know his uncle, and he came up from the Gosford area, and he's played wing fullback. He's been in second grade, but most of his football in first grade. But he's a worker. Gets involved.
Yes, he does. He's a very fiery player too.
That's what I was just going to say. So if he can curb that, he'll be all right. I think that's probably the red hair that helps him there.
It's a West ball. Walsh around Patterson, picked up by Flats in cover. 5 metres out from the Parramatta line now. Neil, Goodwin. Number 9 for Western Suburbs is Michael Duke. Goodwin. This is Arbour in 13. And they're 8 metres out, the Magpies. The popular... Oh, another clash of the shoulders there from the big men. And John Crowe, he must be starting to feel like he wouldn't win any popularity poll. Alan Neil. Goodwin was coming fast. Held back for Broderick. Broderick pops it to Lease. Lease in the headgear. Number 8 tonight. Well, the popular catch theme song at the Magpie territory now is "You Can't Stop the Magpies." Can Parramatta turn them around? Goodwin with the bomb. Cross kick. Underneath it is Brett Kenny, but it's Western Suburbs ball, is it? Yes, it's picked up by Cooper. Flung down to Alan Latham, and Latham is taken in a desperate attempt at defence by Parramatta. And a scrum about 5 metres out from the Parramatta line.
Very well-placed bomb there by Teddy Goodwin, kicking across the ruck, and Western Suburbs certainly knew what was on. Parramatta a little bit thin, and West a little bit unlucky.
So that feed by Sterling again to me looks dubious. Aldridge getting those long legs, to me, prematurely across the tunnel, but he got away with it, and it's Dowling coming away for Parramatta. There's a chance on here, but Dowling didn't realise that Michael Cronin was unmarked on his outside.
Beautiful step, wasn't it? It was. He left Goodwin standing, didn't he?
This is John Chapman. Chapman, good one. Oh, the pass is deliberately forward, is it? It's, the advantage rule has been applied as Lisa's tackled now. 11 metres on Parramatta's side of the halfway. Buckley. 2 points all. A penalty to Cronin and a penalty to Walsh. This is Neil. Now Goodwin. And he pops it up for Cooper. Gets it away to Boland. He puts it down. And Alan Neil makes a knock-on of it for Western Suburbs. And this scrum just outside the Parramatta 22.
Western Suburbs very eager to back up anyone that makes that break, and they've always got plenty of support, and they've been a little bit unfortunate. They've made good inroads into this Parramatta defence, and even at this stage they look very dangerous.
That's a good scrum in that.
Well, Sterling's got possession for Parramatta.
It's a good win, but a bad loss.
Bad loss, yes.
Now Sterling. Now Patterson. This is Cronin. A quick pass to Kenny is required, but he decides to take it on himself. And then he goes, oh, base over apex, Cronin. Oh, spectacular stuff. Hard tackling. O'Reilly gets the pass down, but Sterling can't take it cleanly. It's a West ball. Broderick now. Parramatta at 6s and 7s for the moment. Sterling making the tackle. Struck for by Hilditch. Latham tackle by Hilditch. And it's the resumption of the tackle count for Western Suburbs.
They better start settling it down a bit. They're rushing a few things, aren't they?
Yes, they are, but gee, the defence is very vigorous by both sides, isn't it? We know that this has been one of Western Suburbs' strategies, isn't it? Their powerful, vigorous defence, but they've certainly been met head-on by Parramatta out here this evening. It's a very fiery opening.
Buckley now to play it. Lease. Oh, he said, I can't go round that way, can I?
No, but he did the right thing, didn't he?
A one-way street with a dead end. Neil. Oh, doubtful little pass to Tom Arbour. Last tackle for the Magpies. By Jove, it's been a quarter and a half, hasn't it, for real block-busting tackling. It's Neil across to Walsh now. Goodwin's on his outside. Tries to make the opening himself. Steve Sharp in 10 makes the tackle. And this could well be the last scrum of the quarter. Just over a minute to go. 2 points all. Broderick, by the way, Ron Broderick is playing in the second row. Michael Duke is playing in the centres. And feet across is the ruling against Hilditch. And I've got to be honest, I thought maybe Gosha could have caught him at least twice before.
It's a very interesting situation between young Mike Duke and Broderick, because Duke has made his name in the centre apparently, but he's constantly being switched from the centre spot to the second row, and of course if he is able to make a success of that, switching to the second row, it gives them a lot more striking power there.
So it's Neil. A short ball to Broderick. Just outside the 22-way line. About 40 seconds to go. Neil. Walsh. And he tries to flick it out the back. That was probably a little bit too fancy. But they've still got possession. Arbour. Ooh. Hilditch went high.
I thought he went high.
And Gosha calls him out as Hilditch and Crow have an exchange of thoughts and a bit of a laugh from Hilditch. And then he says, nowhere in the world I hit him high, sir. And Gosha said, I'm afraid you did. And cop this, a penalty to West.
He's getting involved, that Alan Neil, getting sitting with a groin injury. I know he hasn't stretched out little short paces he's taking, but he's getting himself very involved. I suppose it's helpful to warm up the injury too, because those groins are terrible things.
But he is a very good player, and he certainly grabbed his opportunity now. He's played in the shadow of Tommy Madonicus for probably the last couple of seasons, but each time he came into grade, he made a very good impression, and he certainly blossomed out this year.
Just looking at that replay while you guys were talking, I tell you what, Ron Hilditch might be a little bit lucky. So Peter Walsh, who is a regular goal kicker in reserve grade. In fact, he's scored 2 tries and kicked 31 goals so far in reserve grade. And 68 points for the season in that grade, coming from 10 games. Played in the top grade side against St George at the start of the year. This is a simpler kick for him, but oh, he's got it. He's lifted the head and got the 2 points, and that might be a successful recipe. The scoreboard says it is, as Western Suburbs go to quarter time, leading Parramatta by 4 points to 2. With Western Suburbs going to the break, 4 points to 2, with 2 penalties off the boot of Peter Walsh and 1 penalty to Mike Cronin. But there was a good amount of solid tackling in that first quarter. Certainly it had its moments of controversial tackling where maybe in the latter part Ron Hilditch could have been marked by referee John Gosher, but he was right on the spot and he saw it quite clearly. The penalty ensued and Western Suburbs grabbed the opportunity and lead 4-2. Scrums at quarter time are 2-all. Penalties at quarter time are 5-4 in favour of Western Suburbs in tonight's first semi-final in the Tooth Cup of 1980. Last week the man of the match, incidentally, was Balmain's very versatile Percy Knight, and he won a choice of prizes, as does each and every one of our men of the match on a Wednesday and Saturday here in Sydney town, and it comes from National Panasonic and Electronic Sales and Rentals.
The players will be vying for prizes with a retail value of $5,000 in our National Electronic Sales and Rentals Man of the Match Award. Not only will the winner receive a copy of tonight's game, he'll also get access to 100 movies from our video library and a choice of one of these 3 great national products. This all-new video cassette recorder with a retail value of $1,400, or this video colour camera, retail value $1,650, or this portable video recorder, retail value $1,400, all with the compliments of National Panasonic and Electronic Sales and Rentals.
Thanks, Joe Hasham. And we take you now to the sidelines. Keith Barnes is down there with Parramatta's fullback, well, he was up until tonight, Neil Hunt.
Yes, Neil, well, you must be a little bit disappointed because you've cemented a spot in the Parramatta side, and now, of course, you've given Australia's Test fullback, Gary Dowling, the opportunity to get back.
Yeah, well, that's a chance I had to take. I had an injury, Gary was a great player. I think John's pretty happy with me form up to date, but if I would have played tonight, I might have been detrimental to myself, so, you know, I had to take that chance.
It's certainly detrimental to yourself and to the team, but, gee, that was a fiery opening 20 minutes, wasn't it?
That's right. Well, it's a semi-final, and semi-final for any type of football, especially cup football, it's always torrid, and I think it'll be torrid for the next couple too.
Yes, well, certainly the forwards were sorting themselves out, and it looks like developing into that sort of a game.
Yeah, our forwards are very keen tonight. We want to win this game, and the Bear, he wants to get back his spot, and so does Arthur, so they're going all out.
Yes, well, I'd say by the tone of that conversation, you're very confident, Neil, and we'll see what develops. Well, after this break, we'll be back for the second quarter.
In the big game this Saturday night, you'll see Eastern Suburbs clash with Cronulla Sutherland at the Sydney Sports Ground. In round 1, East narrowly defeated Cronulla by 14 points to 11. The Roosters simply can't afford to take the Sharks lightly in their efforts to reach the semi-finals. You'll see the only full match replay of this important encounter on the channel that gives you more of the match every Saturday. It happens from 6 to 7:30 on League Station 10. So we're coming up to the start of the second quarter, and Cronin kicking off again for Parramatta. And Warren Boland having more success with this kick-off than he did at the top of the night. And that was a beaut tackle by Michael Patterson, but he appears to have knocked himself out in the process. This is Peter Walsh, and they're inside the 22-way line. Arbour. Patterson groggily at the top of your screen, jogging out towards the wing. This is Latham, away from Sharp, picked up by Beaton. Buckley. Torpedo punt, it's going down over the head of Dowling. I like it. No, it's out by a foot. Oh, gee, it was close.
Certainly was. I think Dowling's been a little bit surprised by the power in Buckley's boot, because on the first occasion, Dowling had to go back a fair way. And on that occasion, of course, we saw Dowling's Buckley's kick land just a foot or so inside a touch and gain some 60 metres. But also on that occasion, he was driven a fair way back, just a little bit unfortunate. It was just a foot over the touchline.
There's not a lot of breeze out there, but Buckley is technically a full-back.
He's got a very strong kick,
He came to West as a full-back, and they've used him on the wing of it, but now he's in the position he likes.
Jim Lees would have liked to have him coming from full-back on that occasion, because the gap was there, but it's a situation of your full-back standing up in the line in defence as Goodwin has an overlap here, a long pass out on the full. And a scrum will go down about 8 metres inside the Western Suburbs quarter line.
That's Teddy Goodwin, though, isn't it? And whenever he's running with the ball, you've got your heart in your mouth, because he's likely to do anything.
That's right. He either does something that's brilliant, or if
something like that
just doesn't work. Yeah.
So Neil feeds the scrum, and it's won by Parramatta. Sterling scooping it out for Platts now, and Lees is there to tackle him with Buckley on the quarterway line. Dowling. And look at that Western Suburbs defence. 3 of them in there all the time. O'Reilly.
I don't think there's enough variation in Parramatta's attack at the moment. I think they're a little bit stereotyped. I think there's got to be a lot more switching of the play and trying to throw a little bit of a doubt in this Western Suburbs defence that's moving up very, very quickly on the pivot forward, and Sterling in particular.
Well, O'Reilly tried it then. He did prop to turn around, but no one was coming on.
Now this is Steve Sharp getting it back into no man's land, picked up by Platts, and Rebo makes the tackle on the quarterway line. Scoreboard side of Leichhardt. Sterling, the high bomb, and Brett Kenny plucking it out of the air and out of the clutches of Goodwin. The end of 6. And this scrum will go down again just inside the West 22. Now Ghosh is calling out to Glover and Rebo. Obviously there wasn't much in it because it was the briefest exchange conversation-wise we've seen for a long time. Penalty to West.
And I think it's one that they take very thankfully, Mike.
Oh, yes. It's the first time Parramatta, I know it's early in the quarter, but the first time Parramatta's been down there for a while. I think West are grateful to get out.
Buckley's kick for touch is a good one. Finding it about 5 metres on his own side of the halfway. Neil, Crow, Beatson taking him to ground. They're inside the 5.
I don't think it helped either with Artie, with Beatson laying all over the West player. Then took a while to get up, and Parramatta anxious to get up in defence, and certainly they were caught well inside the 5 yards.
So Buckley again kicking for touch, and another good kick by Buckley. It's been one of the features of the match. 7 metres inside the Parramatta quarter line. Pardon me. Neil, Arbour, and he's put down by Hilditch. 4-2 in favour of the Magpies. Here's John Crow coming on the burst, but he lost momentum when Alan Latham wasn't able to deliver the pass at the right time. Walsh. The two blonde-headed Parramatta players, Sterling and Sharp. This is Arbour. Inside him is Alan Neil. Ray Bernasconi, the West Secretary, said he's been carrying a groin injury since the first match they had against East on Anzac Day. Alan Latham, 10 metres out from the line. Tackle number 6 coming up. Goodwin running across the field, picking up Jim Lease. Lease throws the pass around the corner, but it was forward and out. And it's a penalty for deliberately throwing the ball forward. Referee John Gosher spot on with that ruling. But then again, it was another exhibition of the potential that Jim Lease has. The ability to look for a man and then give him every opportunity. Glover now. Playing it to his captain. Now O'Reilly. Back to Hilditch. Cooper. And Duke in the tackle. Beatson. Picked up by Patterson. Given to Cronin. And Goodwin slams Cronin to the ground. Sterling stepping around. Beats 3. Back to Hilditch. He's left it. Picked up by Platts. Knocked backwards, said the referee. Platts looked around and said, is it okay to play on? He thought it was a knock on. 8 metres out from the 22.
Yeah, I don't think you should look around. I think you keep going until you hear the whistle.
Now Sterling. Looking for that touch line. Buckley is back. And takes it back towards halfway. Sterling first man there with Glover. And a knock on. And Buckley says, what?
He must have lost it in the tackle.
(4-2) in favour of the Magpies. And that ball is coming out their pack, or out behind their pack, and Sterling picks it up for Parramatta. Now, that's a good question. Who do you put that scrum win down to? Cronin to Dowling. By Jove, it was marginal too.
Oof, that was the one that was marginal.
Yeah. Second tackle there.
Yeah, I think obviously Goodwin felt that Dowling had lost the ball, and I feel he went in after it.
Here's the replay of the incident coming up for you. As Cronin gave the pass to Dowling, which we've spoken about,
And he did lose it.
Yeah,
Goodwin came in, and people probably thought he's gone in with an elbow to the jaw of Dowling, but no way. It was simply a matter of playing the loose ball. West continue to lead, 4-2. Buckley around Patterson. Picked up by Sterling and Beatson. Lease. Cooper. Held by Platts. Got a one-handed pass away to Lease. That's the halfway line, you see. 12 minutes out from half-time. Neal. Arbour. Picked up by Steve Sharp. Cup final night on August the 20th. Cronin, a flick pass. No, it wasn't. It was a dummy and a beauty. He fooled plenty of people.
He didn't fool those three West players.
No, he didn't. Played back to Chapman. Pinches 5 or 6 metres. Sterling's calling it. O'Reilly wants it too. O'Reilly with it. Patterson, Beatson, the big man, up the centre, looking for the runner. Got the pass away. Good pass from Beatson. That's Platts. They're midway between the 22 and the halfway. 8 1/4 minutes gone, second quarter. Sterling calls for it. Again it goes right to Beatson, to O'Reilly, back to Beatson. And away to Kenny. Beautiful pair of hands. Took that ball in nicely. Got the pass away. That man is Grimaldi. Picked up by Glover. Glover goes around Rebo. Inside the 22 and still going. Now held by Buckley and by Rebo. Lost the ball, and it will be a penalty to Parramatta for stealing the ball. West 4, Parramatta 2. Talking of cup final night here in a fortnight. Over the years on that particular evening, not only the clubs participating and rugby league are the winners, but also the spectators here at the ground. And at the 1982 cup final, people attending the ground on that night will have an opportunity to win a heap of prizes, which I'll tell you about in just a moment, as Glover is tackled 10 metres out from the line. Parramatta turning down the opportunity of going for the penalty. Beatson on the burst now. Hilditch goes from dummy half, gains another 4 metres. And you can see from that picture how close they are to the line. Sterling going blindside. Sharp now. No gain in ground. Sterling again dummy half. Back to Beatson. Cuts out Patterson, goes to Cronin. He gets it back to Lou Platts. And he's held by Lease and Goodwin. He's lost it. And a scrum will go down in the front of the uprights. 15 metres out. On that night, there'll be 9 radio cassette players from National Panasonic and 1 13-inch colour television receiver. And from Easterways Air Conditioning, another superb national product, the National Room Air Conditioner, made available by Easterways at Artarmon. They're the ground prizes for the cup final night here on August 20 for you, the people coming to the ground. Jim Lease now. Scrums favouring West 5-4. Penalties favouring the Magpies 7-6. This man is Peter Walsh, forced back under an Arthur Beatson tackle.
Picking in some heavy defence, Beatson, hasn't he?
Yes, he's really, must think he's in Brisbane there at the...
State of Origin,
yeah.
Broderick to play.
Boland away from dummy half. Beatson again making the tackle with Brett Kenny. They're on the 22-way line. Neal. Walsh. Goodwin. Turns it inside. Arbour. Oh, Hilditch over the top. O'Reilly was underneath. Walsh. Goodwin. And the kick by Goodwin is down the centre, sending Gary Dowling back towards centre field and towards his own 22 line. Now, Neal and Lease are coming up in cover. And Dowling picked up by little Alan Neal, and then he threw a dangerous pass, which was taken in by the wing three-quarter Chapman.
Well, West are getting up quickly too inside that 5. You want to be careful.
Sterling. The kick bouncing high and favourably for Buckley. Here's the halfway line. They're crossing it now. Well, they were. Crow. Watch this. I was thinking maybe that Bob O'Reilly be there ready to accept him. They've had a running battle since they blew time on. Alan Neal. Peter Walsh.
Beatson coming over the top of Patterson and Walsh and virtually swallowing both his teammate and the opponent up. Latham. Beatson's getting through a heap of work.
Yes, and he's not just putting them down either. He's hitting pretty hard.
Neal. Cooper. Danger man. Michael Patterson is not well. He's getting to his feet very slowly, as you can see.
He took a hammering in that first quarter. I don't think he's fully recovered there, right?
No, he's been on the ground a couple of times during the second session. Same tunnel. Peter Sterling waving his head negatively as if to say to John Goshet, gee, when have we got to get a penalty out of this fellow's feeding? We've got one now, he says.
There's no way West were going to attack them.
There was no way either one were going to attack.
Good, we were standing right up.
You couldn't have seen a more negative defensive line from either side.
That's right.
So just a metre on west side of the halfway. Cronin will kick for touch to the scoreboard side.
I think there's a message going out there.
There is not an inch in this game. Not one asked for, and not one given. Beatson. Well, he might have his detractors, but I tell you what, he's having a fairly good game here tonight, although that's a bit sloppy. He's lost it. No, it's a penalty to West. He's told him it's the incorrect way of playing the ball. I think penalty to the Magpies, and Beatson doesn't like it.
No, I think he was saying that he didn't get any opportunity to play the ball, and just as he was about to play it, it was torn out of his grasp by a Western Suburbs player, and I think he was looking for the penalty.
Buckley looking for touch. I must admit, I thought Parramatta would have got the penalty, but
I think he possibly made the mistake of continuing on picking the ball up and moving it out.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Oh, scrum.
Arbour's had a bad two quarters with his hands. He's lost the ball a couple of times.
West are getting what appears to be a fair amount of possession from the scrums, but the scrum count officially is 6-4 their way, with Walsh playing at Talise. Platts over the top. Crow. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody get marched in this match tonight. There's a lot of spite out there. Cooper. Rebo. Through the first line. Pulled down by Sharp.
I think there's a lot of vigour, but I think the spite has sort of turned down a little bit. I think it was certainly there in the early stages, but now it's just very, very strong defence from both sides.
I think you might find a bit of attack now. I see Teddy Goodwin received some sort of instructions, and then I noticed that Peter Walsh was telling him to get out and get deep, saying to spread the West players.
Those scrums that I was referring, or the scrums I was referring to earlier in the second quarter, they have gone to West 4-2. And play is just on the west side of the halfway as we find Chapman playing it back to Kenny. And that's against the marker. 4 minutes out from quarter time. O'Reilly is calling for attention. As Cronin leaves the halfway line behind him as he kicks for touch.
He's limping, Bill O'Reilly.
Chapman. Hilditch acting half. Beatson. Beatson looking for Sterling or someone to come off him. Hilditch was there. Sterling is dummy half now. A one-hander to Steve Sharp, and he's cut down by Jim Lease. Good tackle by Lease. It could have been danger. Hilditch. Sterling. Patterson's after the bomb. Buckley's got to go for it. Up above the pack, Buckley. That's a good take. A good take by Buckley. Latham chopped down by Sterling.
Parramatta certainly appreciating the tightness of this Western Suburbs defence, because they're losing no opportunity to put that high bomb up in the air, aren't they?
Yes, well, it's been a feature of the West's game actually in the last few weeks, and particularly tonight, is their defence.
says Broderick.
It's going to be a great psychological lift to the first team that's able to breach the defence and come up with a try.
Yes, well, no one broke it yet, have
There's
they?
nothing in it at the moment.
That's why I thought earlier when I mentioned that West was starting to spread. I think that maybe they're going to try and attack now and break that line.
It was a lucky bounce, not a lucky bouncer. It was Teddy Goodwin getting possession off to his side. And Boland's away. Dowling's coming across in cover and makes the tackle with the assistance of Chapman. But it was a typical piece of Teddy Goodwin at his best, with the chip over the top, the regain. And that's the end of 6 for Western Suburbs.
You saw by Riley coming off, I think, right?
Beatson's gone. Oh, at the moment.
They're playing with 12 men.
No, Kevin Webb's on there.
Did they replace him?
No, Webb is on there as hooker. Hilditch has gone to prop. And the first scrum is won by Webb, but it's a penalty to Western Suburbs. Well, the indication appears that it's an incorrect feed. But that being the case, it seemed to take a long time to give that ruling. Well, Sterling's got his problems with John Gosher at the moment, hasn't he? Incidentally, at half-time in this match, I'll be talking to Roy Masters, the West coach. I recorded the interview prior to kick-off tonight, asked him a couple of questions that, well, I guess you'd like answered. And I trust you enjoyed. I found it something I enjoyed doing with Roy Masters, and I'll play that interview for you at half-time. Peter Welsh on the quarter line, and being a scrum penalty, it would be setting a lot of those critics talking, I suppose, about the abolishment of the kick at goal from scrum penalties, and Walsh has struck it beautifully. 6 points to 2 in favour of the Magpies. Walsh has kicked 3 out of 3. And as I told you, a healthy crowd in attendance in the stand at Leichhardt, and enjoying, I would think, every moment of this first half of football, which is about to have the curtain come down on it. Cronin will barely have time to restart. Boland, who is polling well in the Dally M Daily Mirror Channel 10 contest, and could well be the Dally M winger of 1980. I don't think there'd be too many people would want to argue with him if he did happen to win that award. Cooper tackled to ground by Platts. The end of the half, and I thought a good half of rugby league football. Western Suburbs leading Parramatta by 6 points to 2. Final sees Western Suburbs leading Parramatta by 6 points to 2, and I do hope you're enjoying the telecast. The Singapore Airlines Superstar, let's keep you up to date on that. Percy Knight from Balmain is in front at the moment on 6 points. On 5 points, Kevin Hastings and John Rebo. And on 4 points, John Tobin and Peter Sterling. Now, the Superstar must come from the two teams competing in the 1980 Cup final, and he'll win from Singapore Airlines this prize. The 1980 Superstar will fly out with Singapore Airlines, enjoying the great in-flight service, fine food and plentiful drinks with Singapore Airlines compliments. On arrival in London, he'll enjoy the luxury 5-star Hyde Park Hotel, enjoying one of the most beautiful dining rooms in London and right in the middle of Knightsbridge. Then it's on to Europe with Trafalgar Tours on their air-conditioned modern coaches visiting Amsterdam, Venice, Rome, Paris. Trafalgar Tours has over 30 years' experience and can guarantee incredible value for your money. Returning then with Singapore Airlines with a stopover in Singapore. Some trip that, and it's a prize that any one of the footballers that you're seeing tonight could well take out. But John Rebo and Peter Sterling are certainly up there with a good chance at the moment. As I told you before the match, I had the opportunity of doing an interview with Roy Masters. Not a long interview, but I've asked him a couple of questions that you might enjoy hearing the answers to. Here's that interview now. Well, Roy Masters, I suppose the name Roy Masters would rate in the top 5 when it comes to publicity, whether it's complimentary or adverse. But, but I recall not so long ago you didn't rate yourself in the top 10 coaches in Sydney technically. Did you mean that?
Yeah, I do mean that, in the sense that I really can't show them intricate reverse plays and grubber kicks and things like that. I can't do the technical things as well as the players can. So I just fall back on an old teaching principle, and that is that I'll select somebody who can do it better than I can, and maybe I can sort of fill in the words while he's doing it, showing them the technique and using somebody else as the example.
Roy, were you much of a footballer yourself?
Oh, I thought I wasn't too bad. I was a bit of a hooker, and I played a lot of good rugby union, but I don't really think that I'm in the league of the other 11 running around here in Sydney at the present time.
When you were playing football, did you fancy the heavy work?
I liked it, yeah, I did. I did like it a little bit. I thought that...
What about a bit of stick?
Well, I used to cop a bit, so I thought, well, you've obviously got to give a little bit back, and that gets a little bit of respect, which it does.
Blokes like Tom Radonicus and Les Boyd and John Doherty have long left you now. Had they done as much as they could under the Roy Masters style of coaching?
I don't really think that I could have done too much more for Tommy, Les or Joe Cool. Maybe I think I could have done a little bit more with Ray Brown. I
left him out on purpose,
yeah.
Yes.
I only had him for 1 year. I think I could have done a little bit more with Ray.
See, Roy, your track record continues to look as though you need a fresh crop of 2-year-olds every year.
Probably being a teacher, you get a fresh crop every year. You're used to it, I suppose.
What is it?
Oh, it's probably the enthusiasm of carrying on with a job. You get a brand new crop, and it's sort of it's a new field to plough. It's a new house to build. It's something different, and so consequently you approach it with renewed vigour.
How would you go, Roy, do you think, coaching Parramatta with all those big names?
Well, I don't think I really would have that much problems. I had an Australian schoolboys team once, which were very big names, and probably some of them were fairly big heads as well.
Do you think big names would respond to your style of coaching?
I think big names normally respond to results, and I'd like to think that I do get results.
Roy Masters, thanks for talking to me.
Okay, Ray, good.
The first semi-final with Wests running right to left, leading 6 points to 2. And in 40 minutes from now, or thereabouts, one of these sides will be in the Cup final for 1980, sponsored by Tooth & Company, and a chance of taking home $91,000. Hilditch for Parramatta. No team changes. 10 metres out from his 22 line. Sterling. His kicking tonight, whether it's been intentional, hasn't had the same accuracy as we've seen from the little man in the last few months. Lease.
He certainly hasn't been given any time to settle down, because Alan Neal has been moving up very, very quickly on him. And also I noticed that Rebo and Boland have been dropping fairly deep, covering the touch lanes particularly well, forcing him to kick infield.
So Kevin Webb is the marker. He came on just before half-time to replace O'Reilly, and that's him making the tackle with Steve Sharp. Neal, Cooper, and nearly intercepted by Kevin Webb, who has possession, but it's a knock-on and a scrum just outside the West 22. Half-time penalties favoured West 9-8. The half-time scrums favoured West 6-4. Here's Patterson trying to beat Lease. Got a pass away, which Sharp did well to take. But this West defence is just standing up and pushing Parramatta back. Oh, Dowling putting it to ground, and Alan Neal has it for Western Suburbs. Keith Barnes back from the dressing rooms. What was the reports from down there?
Well, as far as Parramatta were concerned, they were a little bit critical of the handling errors that crept into their game, and certainly wouldn't have been too happy then with Gary Dowling putting that pass to the ground. Ronnie Hilditch, the skipper, calling for a big effort now in this third quarter. He felt that their defence had been very strong, but looking for even stronger defence in this critical period. And a little bit critical of the lack of depth in the Parramatta attack. He felt that they were a little bit flat-footed, which enabled the Western Suburbs defence to move up quickly enough to bottle them up. As far as Western Suburbs are concerned, Roy Masters happy with the position, leading by 6 points to 2, but also looking for a little bit more depth in their attack and looking to play the game out a lot wider than the centre of the field. He felt that it being contained in the middle of the rucks was a disadvantage as far as West were concerned, but looking to bring the centres Goodwin and Broderick into the game much more, and also of course looking for plenty of little chips over the top from Alan Neil, because he feels that with Parramatta's defence moving up quickly, there's definite advantages in that area.
So this is Buckley tackled now, 10 metres on his side of the halfway. Lease. So the Magpies 6, the Eels 2, and Welsh goes down with an injured ankle as Goodwin throws it back for Cooper to Neil, and now on to Latham, and a dummy to Lease, and Platts makes the tackle with Grimaldi. Lease, Arbour, Platts and Hilditch combining to stop the big man. Buckley. That's going to be hard to stop. Chapman has it safely. He'll take Dowling with him as they come to Buckley. And about 8 metres out from the 22. Plays it to Kevin Webb. Back to Sterling. Now Dowling. And Dowling is almost completely through the West defence. He, in fact, has been probably the only Parramatta player, with maybe the exception of Beetson, to cause West's a problem. Goodwin penalised now for a touch of overindulgence in the tackle.
Yes, bad play as far as Teddy Goodwin was concerned. I agree with you in relation to Gary Dowling. He looks a real danger man as far as West are concerned. And I should imagine as the game gets a little bit slower, because it has been played at a torrid pace, the opportunities could be there for Dowling to run into this into the rucks, particularly off a bloke like Arthur Beetson, or looking to attack on the Blaine side of the rucks. Parramatta, I should imagine, would be looking to play the game down in Western Suburbs territory as much as possible, and bring a little bit more control over the ball, because this is where they have been falling down.
Hilditch up to the 22, but running out of support. He'll play it on the 22 line. That was good work by Sterling and also by Steve Sharp. This is Patterson looking for the runner on the inside. Gives the pass along and behind Grimaldi, who saves for Parramatta. And will play it now. 15 metres into West territory. Chapman goes from dummy half. Just outside the 22 line.
He's in trouble, Peter Walsh. He did that tackle, but he's still limping badly.
Yes, it's just kicking for two, which is...
Beetson like a man inspired, and then popping it up anywhere. He, I think, just threw it in desperation, hoping he'd pick up a runner, but it came off a West player. And the scrum just inside West 22.
Well, of course, you take the percentage there, because at least with Beetson attempting to get that pass away, sometimes the pass goes to him, and of course the try is certainly on the board then.
Buckley.
He's beaten again to a loose ball, Sterling. He's been slow to get to those balls on the ground, and Alan Neil's been very quickly to them.
Goodwin, Crow. That could be one of the reasons he's a fraction slower than he is sometimes, Mike. He's been forced to do a lot of tackling.
Yes.
And Walsh has it for West, just outside the quarter. Broderick indicating to the referee that Sterling got a touch to it, and why hasn't he nullified the tackle count? Gosha having no part of it, indicating 5 tackles now. Neil. Chip over the top. Dowling coming up. And it's Neil back in possession. He did it on Saturday against the Dragons, and he's done it again. Oh, what a magnificent little player he is. Teddy Goodwin now. Floating it for Cooper. 6 more tackles for the Magpies. Platts making the tackle on Cooper on the halfway line. He's a will o' the wisp, Mike Cleary.
He certainly is. As we're going to get back to that groin injury, I just can't imagine how he's going so well, because I've had a couple of them myself, and they're awful things to try and run with.
Well, it didn't help Chang and Langland, did it?
No.
Well, you can take it as being a fair dinkum complaint, because Bernasconi, Ray, explained it to me fully before this match tonight. Broderick, Boland, Sterling, but no, it was Sharp the tackler. Cooper, Neil, a lofted pass to Walsh, and now this is Duke. Sterling the tackler. End of 6. In fact, Keith Barnes, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe 8 weeks ago you made a comment about Alan Neil losing some of the zippiness that he had off the mark in the early part of the season.
Actually, I don't
fancy
remember
that we said it sometime along the line, but he didn't look as sharp in a match shortly after that Anzac Day clash.
It wouldn't affect him too much off the mark, Ray, because the groin injury generally comes to fruition when you try to stride out. If you keep the strides sharp and narrow, you've got a chance. But as soon as you get into full flight, you're in trouble.
No, he's a very exciting player, Alan Neil, and you know, as I said earlier in the game, that he certainly capitalised on his opportunities this year, as he's been playing in the shadows of Tommy Vadonicus for so long.
Chapman now. 6 points to 2 in favour of the Magpies. We're almost 11 minutes out from the three-quarter break. Hilditch on the West 22, playing it to Kevin Webb. Sterling to the left. Grimaldi, his first grade cap. Beatson on the charge. No, he's not.
Oh,
well, how embarrassing.
He's really the first one at both sides to really break that line, Beatson, when he threw that pass went forward. But he did get through there. And probably should persist and rather than going back like he did then, going forward.
Cronin given a facial by Goodwin.
He wasn't going to give in then, Goodwin, either. Even when the roughness was on, he was still backing into where it was. Innocently looking at the referee and rubbing his shoulder back into the Parramatta players.
Isn't this his first game back tonight?
Yes, he's been running around playing some district soccer to keep himself fit. It's pretty hard to get caught offside there in soccer, unless you
So Michael Cronin. Superstar, I think that word can be used quite appropriately on this man. He joined Parramatta in '77 from Gerringong, and he stands as the most prolific point scorer in the game's history. He's repped at City, New South Wales, Australian level regularly since '77. Rothman's medalist in '77 and '78. Has now played 87 games for the Eels and scored 919 points in all premiership games, an average of 10.5 points a game. Hits it from 38 metres out, and it's good. 2 points to Parramatta, 2 points to Michael Cronin, and it's Western Suburbs 6, Parramatta 4.
He's really been a credit to the game, Mike Cronin. Ray, he goes about his business without any ruffles or anything like that. He just handles it in his stride. He really fascinates me as a player. He's quite unique. It's only he and Bobby Fulton I've seen that can stand on their feet when defenders come in and get rid of the ball.
Mike Cronin as an ambassador for the game has also been something else, and I've heard it said he could even turn his collar around and wear it the other way and get away quite satisfactorily.
Yes, I think he could.
Beatson, although I do know him a fraction better than that, and I can assure you he wouldn't pass the elementaries. Webb across to Hilditch and flattened from behind by Goodwin. But Parramatta is starting to look a little bit sharper now. Sterling across to Patterson. A cut-out pass for Cronin and given to Platts. Going dangerously close to the touchline. 11 metres on the west side of the halfway. Dowling is the first man off the ruck. A short ball. Now to Beatson. And the big man goes crashing under the tackle of Bob Cooper. Midway between 22 and halfway. Magpie into the field. Sterling, Patterson, Cronin. They will not leave Cronin alone. Sterling, grubbing for touch, won't find it. Buckley in possession for the Magpies. 6 points to 4 in favour of the black and white. Sterling the tackler. Does just about everything bar mow the grass at Cumberland. Lease. Latham running behind Cooper, almost. Hilditch was the tackler with Webb. Boland, Cooper, Kenny over the top. Dummy half is Duke. Alan Neil wants it. That's him. It's not. It's gone back to John Crow. And they're 2 metres inside the 22. Again for Duke at dummy half.
I think Crowe wanted it. I think he was sucking in air.
I think this is the man who was supposed to get it. He's
lost it.
lost it this time, but... Oh. Jeez.
He executes that little kick very well, but it's a dangerous one just in that situation there, but he has very, very good control over it. Jim Lease doesn't seem to be as prominent in tonight's game as we've seen from him in the past.
It's a Parramatta ball that gets out the tunnel successfully, but I think it's going to come out the back of the West pack. Well, it's locked in there, and Ghosh has given the Magpies a penalty. Well, he's got Parramatta for collapsing. Hilditch is fuming. Well, you could see on the face of Ron Hilditch, he's fuming at some of these decisions in the scrums.
Because they haven't been good scrums all night.
Scrum breaches, 7. The free place kick near the halfway line. Neal, Latham. Beatson over the top with Hilditch. And that was not a powder puff tackle. Walsh, Neal. Cooper to the halfway and away from Sharp's tackle. Now they swarm over Cooper. Walsh. Neal's coming up on the inside, but safely held by Sharp.
The Beatson shoulder then too.
Crow. Gave Cronin one of those in the State of Origin match.
Yeah, early.
Latham. Neal. Cooper. Goodwin. Cut down by Sterling.
See, the defence on both sides, though, it hasn't slackened for a minute, has it?
No, it's been
They
hard
just
right
keep
from the
coming up
opening.
all the time.
Well, that's a good kick.
Dowling scampering back for that kick from Neal. Buckley's got the ring of defence around him. A long ball to Glover. Who... Oh, Joe! That could be trouble for John Rebo. I think he set him.
I think it's a bit premature. Really, I don't think he set him up for it.
Hasn't he?
Yes, he has. He's marched him, yes.
I think he has indicated dressing rooms for John Rebo. And there he is. Leaving the field of play. Western Suburbs wing three-quarter John Rebo, who was only 2 points off the lead in the Singapore Airlines Superstar Series. And that was it on the normal camera replay. I'm wondering whether our head-on camera had it from the different angle. If it did, can we see it?
They don't have to be head high, Ray, but, you know, the intent wasn't there, I don't think.
I think it was, again, one of those cases where a man is wrong-footed and he reaches out desperately, hoping to not be basically embarrassed by a man's step. But, Michael, the rule is there.
I know it's there, but, you know,
And this is
a bit of the old school, Ray. I think it's been a bit overdone at the moment.
well, here's what the camera showed from the other angle. Glover wrong-footed Rebo, and then Rebo collected him under the chin. And it has been, I would think, deemed a dangerous high tackle.
Yes, well, I think technically it was a high tackle. Whether it was a dangerous one, well, that's open to argument.
Well,
That's my comment too, I think.
Wests are now with 12 men again. Paul Merlo basically out for the season, a penalty to Parramatta, and
that's
a show of frustration now.
That's right. That's ridiculous play by Cooper there on that particular occasion. Certainly they're down to 12 men, and but they can't afford to give ridiculous penalties away. And it's good to see Warren Boland moving in very quickly and telling his forwards to calm down. We've seen Western Suburbs overcome situations like this in the past where they've had players sent off at vital stages and still got up and won the game. But they can't afford to give penalties away in kicking situations with a player like Michael Cronin in the opposition side. And it was good then to see Boland move in very quickly and attempt to calm down his players, because it's a vital stage of the game now, coming up to three-quarter time.
Can I quickly say something to you, and if our director can pick up Neville Glover for me, I'd appreciate it. I said it on Saturday after Paul Merlo got marched that Graham Wynn didn't take too long to recover, and it hasn't taken Neville Glover long to recover from what he got from John Rebo.
But he's been selling that sort of thing for years.
There's the Cronin kick. I like it. Straight between the uprights, and it's 6 points all in the first semi of the Tooth Cup in 1980.
And I wasn't being personally critical of Glover for it, but it is part of his play, and he does it well, and to his credit.
So did Tommy Bishop.
That's right.
And so did a bloke called Bozo, I think.
He invented it.
I know we probably shouldn't be laughing about it, but Michael Cleary's been out there and knows a fair bit about what's happening out there. And so does Golden Boots, but he's not saying too much. So away goes... a big run being made by Parramatta's John Chapman. Chasing is good when he picks him up with Buckley on the West 22. 6 points all in the first semi-final. Flats now. Well, West on Saturday had to do it in a similar way against St George, and you wouldn't credit it. Picked up by Webb for Parramatta. I've got a funny feeling that Rebo's marching orders have come at the same time in the match as Merlot's did on Saturday. Sterling, Patterson, cuts out Cronin, Kenny, a fastball to Glover for the corner, a try. Parramatta in to score. Neville Glover, the man who, as I pointed out earlier, maybe tongue-in-cheek, was on the receiving end of the Rebo tackle, had no trouble at all in scoring the try for Parramatta, indicating that a full recovery has been made. Wide out, Glover scores for the Eels, and are they destined for their second cup final? 9-6 in favour of them. The head-on cameras caught it this way.
Yes, and give a lot of credit here to Mike Patterson and young Kenny. The ball cleared the Western Suburbs ruck very, very quickly there after Sterling has moved it out wide. Patterson moving across field here through a good pass to Kenny, cutting out two Western Suburbs players, and then, of course, he was able to turn and draw his opposite number in and give Glover a clear under the corner. Good play by Parramatta, but also in a situation, though, where I think they've had the Western Suburbs defences at 6s and 7s, and Western Suburbs a little bit inclined to play the man rather than play the ball, and I think they've just lost their momentum. Certainly Parramatta capitalised on it. 9 points to 6 now, with a kick coming up right on three-quarter time. A vital turning point, that one of Rebo leaving the field, but I think it certainly sparked the Parramatta side, and certainly frustrated Western Suburbs.
I think Masters will have to think too, because he's got one off now, and he's still got Peter Walsh out there who's 100%.
Cronin's kick unsuccessful, Mike, is breaking in. Parramatta at three-quarter time. Well, it will sound in a matter of seconds. Walsh is still limping, Michael.
He's still limping, and I know he's got, whether he does, Teddy Goodwin can kick at a pinch if he has to.
He just got some attention himself while that goal was being taken.
Well, I think, Walsh does do a bit of cover defending. There's no way he can get across now.
Buckley can kick, Mike.
Yes, yeah, well, that's true.
So we come to the three-quarter siren. The kickoff probably won't even take place. It doesn't. And they go to three-quarter time, and probably one of the more controversial and sensational 20 minutes of cup football in its 7-year history. Parramatta 9, Western Suburbs 6. Football, I'm sure you'd agree. Western Suburbs having the better of the match, it seemed, up until half-time, and it sure seemed as though they were going to go on to another cup final. But 20 minutes of football, that third quarter again, and Parramatta are in front 9-6, and Wests are back to 12 men. Last week's golden try in the, well, again, a controversial match between South and Balmain was scored by Ziggy Niscott of South Sydney. Here's the try scored by that man now.
And also appreciating the attacking value of Balmain's halfback, Percy Knight, so he'll be closely watched.
This is Nathan Gibbs lurking out wide, serving it up for Gary Wright on the inside, and away to Squadrino, on to Ziggy Niscott. There's a try coming. Yes, it's a South Sydney try and a beauty. Ziggy Niscott scoring a try there, which has been nominated to go through for the final scrutiny for the golden try. The player who makes or scores the 1980 golden try wins from Tynan Volvo down at Sylvania and Sutherland. A great car, I call it the Golden Volvo.
This year's Golden Try Award is certainly going to be worth winning with a prize like this. Fabulous Tynan Volvo 242 GT. I'll bet a lot of boys out there will be out to win this one. 242 GT Volvo has legendary dynamic safety, four-wheel disc brakes, fuel-injected motor, 4-speed manual with overdrive that can reduce fuel consumption by up to 10%, and alloy rims with advanced design special tyres. This year's Golden Try Award is certainly going to be worth winning, thanks to the team at Tynan Volvo.
Steve Rogers telling you about Tyne and Volvo, and the car to be won by the man who scores or makes the golden try. Big League is out at the weekend, 65 cents, the official program of the New South Wales League. And incidentally, the new club emblems are on advertisement or publication on the first page of Big League this week. The new emblem as authorised and designed for the New South Wales Rugby League. On the sideline, Keith Barnes is with Western Suburbs goal-kicking centre, Ron Gitto.
Yes, Ron, well, that was a double setback, wasn't it? Johnny Rebo getting sent off, and then, of course, Neville Glover coming back with that try in the dying stages of that third quarter. What can you do now to get back into this game?
Oh, well, the best we can do, I suppose, you know, the way that it's turned out now, I thought we had their measure before Johnny Reeves got sent off, and full credit to Parramatta, the way that they'd exploited the 12 men that we had. But I'm not real sure. I think it's up to Roy. You know, I think he's going to work on some sort of pattern or to get back into this game. There's no doubt that we need a quick try to stand any chance of winning this game, but we've got 12 fellas who are trying, so that's the best we can do.
Yeah, well, you've certainly been in this position before, and you've certainly handled situations like this. I should imagine now that they'd be looking for a bit of possession from the scrums, play the game down here and look into Alan Neal with a little chip over the top and maybe capitalise on something like that.
Yeah, well, like I said, Roy will probably start to get them kicking a little bit more, and hope that we do, with the bounce of the ball comes our way, and that we do score an early try. But like I said, it's pretty hard. Parramatta starting to run on now. They're starting to get a bit of a sniff of victory, and it's just up to the 12 fellas who are out there.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a lift for them, but there's a lot of fight still left in the Magpies, and it's certainly going to be a great final 20 minutes, and after this break, we'll be back for that final quarter.
Straight away, yes, you're quite right, Michael Cleary. The start of the final quarter, and Ted Goodwin has kicked it out on the full, and a penalty goes to Parramatta, who go into this last 20 minutes with a 3-point lead against a side with 12 men, Western Suburbs. Repeating for those who may have just joined us, they had John Rebo sent off in the latter part of the third quarter, and shortly after that Parramatta grabbed the lead for only the second time in the game with a try by Neville Glover. Cronin's kick for touch finds it 8 metres out from the West 22. Chapman towards the quarter line. Sterling calling it. Hilditch inside the 22. Playing it back to Webb. Webb goes himself, runs into the shoulder of Ron Broderick. Sterling, a bomb, sending Patterson after it. Patterson's onside. He's got it, and I think he scored. Has he got it down? No. Referee Gosha says that he failed to get it down. Well, it certainly would have been a spectacular try. A 5-metre scrum to restart. Well, that camera angle won't help us, I wouldn't think, like the head-on would. So if we can score it, I'd appreciate it. And a knock-on from a scrum win by Wests goes unseen by referee John Gosha. Broderick tackled by Sterling. Have we got that replay? With West in possession, we could go back and look at it on the head-on. Let's have a look at it as West take it out, and we'll watch the action live just in case. Well, here it is. Coming down. West still in possession. They're on their 5th tackle. They're still inside the 22. And Patterson, no doubt, has got it. I'm not prepared to say. As we come back to the action live, which I have had the right eye on and the left eye on the replay, so if I don't seem very definite in an opinion, then please forgive me, but it was almost an impossibility to watch them both, but I hope you were able to form some kind of an opinion.
I think there was enough doubt there for referee Gosha to rule no try.
Sterling trying to prize his way through an opening. 9 metres out from the line. Patterson, a grub off a... Well, Patterson's going to get this ball.
Yes.
Now that's a try, is it? No. He said to Patterson, you've bounced it. Well, let's have a look at that one. Well, this is quite incredible. It's a rebound off the feet of two West players. It was fair dinkum the best piece of soccer you've ever seen. Now, I want to see that on the head-on if we can. As West get a penalty out on the 22 line. There's the first kick. Rebound. A bit faster if we can, and then slow it down when it gets to the crucial point. West are taking a penalty from their own 22 line at the moment. I think the men will go cross-eyed doing this. Patterson flies in for it. And Jim Lee's got a foot to it, as Patterson got a hand to it. And again, John Gosher probably had room to say no.
A bit like your eyes there, Ray. There's one each way.
Oh, fair dinkum. Who'd be a referee?
That's right.
Who'd be a referee?
Yeah.
What's Mick Patterson going to do for his third trick?
Oh, I don't know. I tell you what, I wish I had three eyes. Here's Lease now, near the halfway. Well, this semi-final, no matter which way you remember it, has certainly had everything. Buckley. 9-6 in favour of Parramatta. Now Broderick. They're on the halfway line. Neal, a dummy for Latham, and a switch to the blind side for Cooper, who turned it back to Walsh. And that's the end of 6, and the scrum will be fed by Sterling just on Parramatta's side of the halfway. 15 minutes up.
I reckon Bobby Paxton and Gary Russell and Billy Carsons from West will be biting their nails down there, because they've done it tough, West, you know, no money, and put all this together. They've got probably the highest gate receipts of any club to date.
Buckley on the halfway. Boland. I think Blue Plats was thinking of maybe the Christmas hold and a spear tackle, and then thought about it. Walsh will play it to Latham. Neal. Arbor up the centre. Pulled down eventually by Kevin Webb.
Yes, they just need that second lane of attack, don't they? Because Arbor had the opportunity of turning the ball infield if the player had been coming through on the burst then.
Duke now. This is Jim Lease. Arthur Beetson is very slow getting back into a defensive position. Neal. And what's going to happen here? Lease appealed. Neal's gone into Dowling, but it's down for Broderick, away to Buckley. And he's held out there by Hilditch. Dummy half is Lease. They're 12 metres out, the Magpies, trailing by 9 points to 6. Latham, Duke, 9 metres out, tackled by Platts and Beetson. Neal, here comes Goodwin, hard and fast, picked up by the defence of Platts and Sharp. Arbor, Neal, a little chip through, and let's see who's got it. Parramatta, a metre out from their own line. Steve Sharp. Grimaldi. Chapman. Dowling. Sterling. Big torpedo punt down to Buckley over his head. Favourable bounce. Kenny is the first line of defence. Makes the tackle on Buckley, and they're 10 metres on their own side of the halfway, Western Suburbs. 12 minutes out. Lease, tackled by Sterling.
I think they've pulled Peter Walsh off, Ray.
No, he's out on the wing.
Is he?
Yeah, he's on the wing, mate.
Oh, sorry.
Parramatta's ball with Webb floating a long torpedo pass out to the flanker, John Chapman. 6 metres out from the West 22. West 1 man down. 3 points down. Patterson, a quick pass to Beetson. Switches it back for Steve Sharp now. And he's going to be forced to play it 8 metres out from the quarterway line. Slowly to his feet. Sterling on the blind side. Sterling popping it back for Platts. 6 tackles to go, says referee Gosha, touched by West. Beatson forcing a passage close to the ruck. Webb is the ruck half. Inside Gosha and beside the ruck. 11 metres out from the line. Hilditch. Lease under the underneath. Duke over the top. Gosha warning West to get outside the 5. Sterling. Patterson. Cuts out Cronin. It's gone to Dowling. Dowling held by Goodwin and Cooper. This is the last. Sterling is probably the man to watch. Cronin. Sterling. Steps around one. And it's a penalty to West for Shepherd.
Well, no chance in Sterling. He's backed right up.
That was a good one too.
Touch judge in for an incident that happened in the back play. Sterling refused to give the ball to Ted Goodwin, and eventually a West player, who the cameras will identify for you, gave Sterling a very quick back flip. But the little halfback bought off every piece of this, let me tell you. Now, if Lord Ted gets blamed for this, it's not his fault, let me tell you. But that little Alan Latham, I can't give him a vote of innocence. But that little halfback, Peter Sterling, with the cheeky look on his face, he bought it off and he copped it. A penalty to the Magpies. 10 minutes out from full time in the first semi-final of the Tooth Cup. Buckley's kick for touch is good. A highlight of his performance tonight. The free place kick taken by Alan Latham. Neal, Latham, Crow. Beatson down low. Sharp over the top. Walsh, Neal. Oh, gee, they've gone without it, but Boland's there to recover, as he seems to be always.
That's their only hope, though, because I don't think they've got any chance now of really breaking this Parramatta defence up the middle of the ruck, because they're still as tight as they were in the opening 10 minutes of the game.
Alan Neal is crawling out of the play. He's injured as Arbour goes ahead and pulled down by Beatson. Short of the halfway line.
He's had a good game, Alan Neal. I hope he's all right for West's sake.
Here's a chance for the Magpies. Duke looking around for support, but the tackle came from Steve Sharp. By gee, I tell you what, he's done a lot of tackling, Sharp. A lot of it's gone unnoticed because he does look similar with those flowing fair locks, a bit like Sterling, but he's done a lot of tackling as this scrum goes down just on the Parramatta side of the halfway. Webb, the hooker, has cramped. And a feed from Sterling, dubious. A penalty to West. Feed across is the call. Don't want to be super critical, but
I'd have given the penalty for another reason, right?
Yeah. I said it was a dubious feed, but it seemed to take a long time to give the penalty. That's all I was about to say. Anyway, so here's West now with a good chance. 8 minutes out, 3 points down. One of these sides in a fortnight will meet the winner of next week's semi-final, East and Balmain, in the cup final. Duke, taken by Kevin Webb. They're 14 metres out now. Arbour. It'll be interesting to see if Parramatta decide to get offside as much as West did when they won 21-17 the first premiership match. Parramatta haven't forgotten that. Don't suppose West have either. Goodwin. Cooper. Pulled down by Beatson. Goodwin is the dummy half. Cooper has a quick chat to him. There's the bomb from Goodwin. High, it's a good one. And it's gone down over the dead ball line off a Parramatta player.
Well, there's a chance when you're down in that danger zone, aren't you, mate? You know, from that high bomb, it's an even money bet who's going to get it.
I think it was pretty obvious he was going to do it.
He placed it well, though.
Very well.
First semi-final of the Commonwealth Bank Cup was played tonight between Holy Cross Ride and Acacia Ridge High from Brisbane. The match will be seen on 10 tomorrow at 7 and again on Saturday morning at 8:30, while on Channel O in Brisbane the replay Saturday morning at 9. Buckley taking it back over halfway. Tackled by Sharp. Leases the dummy half. Tackler again was Sharp. Out to Neal. That's Tom Arbour. Held by Cronin. And a penalty to West. Not getting off the man tackled. Well, what a finish. 6 minutes to go now. Parramatta 9, West 6. West 12 men, and have been from the 57th minute.
And Ronnie Hilditch wouldn't be too happy about giving away those penalties, because it's allowing Western Suburbs to get into an attacking situation where anything can happen from the high bomb, because they're going to be in a position of taking it up the field that they're going to be able to put the bomb up very close to the Parramatta line.
Cooper playing it just outside the Parramatta quarter. Lease now. This is Arbour. That's Lease. Goodwin. Now Walsh, who's virtually a passenger for the Magpies at this stage. Goodwin. Lease. Broderick. Taken by Platts and Webb. Play in the centre of the field. Alan Neal. Lease. The kick from Lease. Flying through is Boland. Sterling's there to take it though for Parramatta. I'll never forget an Amco Shield final when he played for Fairfield Patrician Brothers. He was the player of the year, halfback, and he fell back to fullback on that occasion in the last 20 minutes when his side needed safety back in the vanguard position. And that was a shade of it then, though he hasn't fallen back there at this moment. Cronin, Kenny with quick hands, and Glover's put it down. Glover, the man who scored the Parramatta try and was the recipient of what will go down as a high tackle from John Rebo that saw the Parramatta, the West winger, sent from the field. We're inside the last 5 minutes of the semi-final. Again, West win the scrum. Neal to the open side. Sharp was the tackler. Penalties, 14-13 to Parramatta. Scrums, 11-6 to West. Lease now. Tries to do it himself. Beatson was the tackler. Peter Walsh. Broderick. Well, he says no, Shepherd. And a pass for John Chapman to intercept and knock back for Brett Kenny, but it's a knock-on, says referee Gosha. Well, this man in the centre has had one heck of a match to control tonight. He's going to be on the end of some controversial coverage of the match, I've got no doubts. But he has had one of the most unenviable jobs that any referee could have in this fast-moving semi-final tonight. A scrum win for Parramatta. I'm just wondering how many scrums West had won. They'd won something like 3 on the trot in the final quarter, I think. Ball being played by Steve Sharp, who to my mind has been one of the stars of the Parramatta side. In defence, he's been absolutely non-stop. Kevin Webb's done nothing wrong since he came on. Gary Dowling has been a problem to Western Suburbs each time he's joined the attack. Inside the last 5, Parramatta 9, West 6. Beatson. We talked about the possibility of a Wests versus Easts replay of the 77 Cup final. You might not recall, but Parramatta and East played the 75 Cup final. And Patterson's pass to Kenny, and Kenny is very fast. He's called Glover to the inside and reaches the 22 line before being arrested just outside the quarter.
Should have given it then too, because although West had 3 cover defenders coming across, Parramatta had another 3 fellas inside Glover.
Wests, with their never-say-die attitude, winning the scrum. Walsh, Goodwin, knocked down by Cronin, and maybe just as well he did. The overlap was there for Wests. Buckley will play it back near his own line. Lease. probing for the opening. Walsh. Duke. Got the pass away for Boland. Boland up the touchline, but Dowling makes the tackle and into touch, 10 metres short of halfway.
Yes, a very good tackle there by Dowling. Another yard, and it would have made it interesting if Boland had just had that little bit extra room to clear Dowling. I don't know whether the Parramatta cover defence would have got him.
Oh, I think it brought me to my feet almost, because I think, as you said, he only needed half a yard there, and he was away.
Walsh, Buckley, away from Patterson, taken by Sharp. A floating pass for Boland, sending Glover back for it. That could be the chance that Parramatta needed. Platts now.
Certainly been a cliffhanger of the game, hasn't it? Neither team really taking control, and apart from that one break when Parramatta did put that try on the board in the third quarter, it's been a game that could have gone either way. And certainly the supporters of both clubs sitting at home wouldn't have gone to bed. I know a couple of Parramatta supporters up the coast that will be biting their fingernails.
So it's Cronin taking this kick for touch. Grandstand side. (9-6) as Glover will play it inside the 22 line. And there's the siren. Parramatta have taken out the first semi-final of the Tooth Cup in 1980, and a big roar went up from the crowd. The blue and gold reigning supreme here tonight as victors, 9 points to 6 in a controversial match, with Wests going through the last 23 minutes again with only 12 men when John Rebo was sent off. We'll have man of the match details for you and other game statistics on the other side of these commercials. In favour of Parramatta, with the final scrum count finishing up with Western Suburbs getting the scrums 13-7. The penalties went with Parramatta 15-13. The only try scored by Neville Glover came at the 58th minute, only 1 minute after his wing opposite, John Rebo, was sent off for I would imagine, an alleged high tackle on Glover. So Cronin kicked 3 goals from 4 attempts. Peter Walsh kicked 3 out of 3 in a match laced with controversy. 9-6 to Parramatta. The National Panasonic Electronic Sales and Rentals Man of the Match. The voting for the Singapore Superstar Series firstly. Ron Hilditch got 1 point. Peter Sterling 2 points. And 3 points went to a player from the losing side, and the Man of the Match to Alan Neal. So it's been a big week for Alan, because I gave him my award on Saturday when he starred, I thought, along with Terry Lamb for West against St George. So Alan Neal has had a very big week, and he gets 3 points. But it does take Peter Sterling, who picked up the 2-pointer. It takes Peter to be level now in the Singapore Airlines Superstar Series with Percy Knight on 6 points. Mike Cleary, thanks for joining us. What a game.
Yeah, it was a good game. I think the first 3 quarters particularly were very hard. I thought it got a bit shabby towards the end, and I'm going to throw this in. I don't think our friend Johnny Rebo should have been sent from the field, but still.
Okay. Keith Barnes, thanks for joining me, and next Wednesday night we look forward to Balmain and Eastern Suburbs.
Yes, I hope it's as good a game as tonight's was.
What's the feeling like up at Tiger Territory for
very
next Wednesday?
Confident, very confident. I think they're playing particularly well, and we've got a hard one on the weekend against Western Suburbs, of course, the competition leaders. Can't be surprised if we knock them over.
Okay, the ever-confident Keith Barnes, the pride of Balmain Territory. We're going to wind up now, as always, by reminding you that on Saturday we have the big game between Cronulla Sutherland and Eastern Suburbs. Then next Wednesday, the big semi-final, Eastern Suburbs and Balmain, to decide the other Cup finalists to go through and join Parramatta here in a fortnight's time. I'm Ray Warren on behalf of Keith Barnes and Mike Cleary. This has been a Network 10 presentation.
In a moment, tonight's John Singleton show, and some of the people you'll meet will be Chantal Conturi, Doug Ashdown, and Judy Keneally. And be here on Saturday at 8:30 when Steve McQueen, Robert Vaughan, and Jacqueline Bissett star in our action-packed movie special, Bullet.
Mm-hmm.